Ladies and gents, friends and colleagues, welcome to the 2020 Summer Webinar Series for the Telex Radio Dispatch products. If you've joined us this week, you know I am Greg Compagnon. I'm the North American Sales Director for the brand RTS Intercoms, along with today's subject with the Telex Radio Dispatch products. On behalf of everyone here at Bosch, we hope everyone is safe and healthy during this uncertain time with the COVID pandemic. We're happy that you could join us, and we thank you for coming. We had a couple sessions on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, and today's session with the IP-224 product. A little bit about myself. I'm based in the Massachusetts region. I take care of all of the sales for North America. And my team, some of you may know Craig Georgeson, covers the central region for the United States. John Anderson covers the sales for the western region of the United States along with Canada. And then Julio Ibanez handles the southeast and the state of Texas. We also have two rep firms I want to mention. Great Lakes takes care of the central north area. You may know some of the staff up at Great Lakes Communications. And then Alex and the CCOM group down in the southeast and Florida take care of the sales for us down there as the rep firm, CCOM Systems. So what are we talking about today? What are the objectives? Well, we want to talk about the IP-224. It's kind of the golden gateway of the generation of the latest generation of our Telex radio dispatch product. It's the heart of the system. This is kind of the IP gateway that allows the radios to talk to our CSoft console and then send it out, routing it to wherever you need it to go. So we're going to talk about the IP-224 today, and we will have both Larry Benedict, our product marketing manager, along with our senior application specialist, Greg Dunaski. Let me introduce you to Larry Benedict. He is our product manager. He has 32 years of experience working in the electronics industry focused on land mobile radio. He's been in the broadcast and audio industry as well, and he holds a general radio, telephone, and extra class amateur radio FCC licenses. He's been with us here at Bosch for 25 years in engineering, sales, support, marketing, and management. So I'm telling you, if you don't know Larry, you probably have seen him, or you'll probably meet him in the future very soon, because he's been all over anything to do with radio dispatch. He is also a EMT volunteer, and he spent 12 years doing that. So he resides in the Minneapolis area outside of our Burnsville headquarters office, and he has a wife and 2 children. So with that, I'm going to hand it to Larry, and he will take us through a little bit and get us started here with the session.
Thanks, Greg. Can you hear me okay?
A little bit of an echo, but I think we can go with it.
Okay, good. Having a little headset issue here. So we've been part of Bosch since 2009. Bosch originally acquired us in 2006, and after we were integrated, it took a couple of years. We've been fully a part of in the Bosch fold since 2009. We've been controlling radios for over 55 years, and in that time, we've gained just a little bit of experience in dealing with dispatch systems. We were the first company to introduce an IP-based radio gateway back in 2003. We've been doing IP-based dispatch consoles since 2001. There's more than 30,000 IP consoles of some sort deployed today from us. And we offer the most radio interfaces by sheer count, whether it be attached to an IP-224 or our older IP-223 radio gateways, to the current DMR and P25, CSSI, DFSI, Kenwood, NextEdge, etc., direct IP interfaces. We have systems installed in all verticals and many sub-verticals underneath those. And, you know, we span the world. Even though we're a North American-focused company, and certainly, you know, we play in public safety, land management, forestry, parks, enterprise systems, There's other places in the world that use this. Panama Canal uses us, the St. Lawrence Seaway. The Taiwanese Fire Department is completely based on our Telex radio dispatch solution. Now I want to turn it over to Greg Danaski, our Senior Applications Specialist. Greg is our expert. He has been around for 36 years in the electronics industry, with 6 years spent in the Navy. And if you saw his changing picture, you can see what can happen. You know, you go in the Navy and then you deal with this for 36 years. It changes a guy. Greg has extensive experience. He's the oldest remaining person from the original Vega out in California. And he's touched sales, engineering, system design, installation. Many of you know him from training as well, and operation. He resides in Lincoln, Nebraska, where our factory is and our engineering team is located. And he's married and has 2 kids. And with that, Greg, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. All right. Thanks, Larry. Let's see how this goes here. So today we're going to focus on the IP-224 and its migration through a number of the evolution of the product, and we'll go into Telex System Manager. There's been a lot of improvements to Telex System Manager that people are not aware of. We'll get an occasional call, and when should I be using this version? When should I be using that version? So let's start out with the IP-224. It's our current gateway. It supports 2 devices per unit, and those can be either radios or 2 or 4 wire tone circuits. Can do 6-wire E&M. There's dual Ethernet ports for backup network connectivity, and there's the unit supports a wide range of serial-controlled radios, and we'll get into that. So under the modes of operation, there's a local mode, which we connect directly to a radio. There's tone mode, which will generate controlled tones, the legacy tone control. And then there's console mode, which allows us to connect up to legacy tone console system. So it allows you to change from a lease line from the control center all the way out to to the remote tower site. This would allow you to then convert over to IP transport. Lots of good features there because we don't encode tones. We decode the tone at one end and then regenerate it at the other. And all we do is IP packet the voice audio. So radio frequencies in local mode, we're able to control 1,000 frequencies or talk groups. So in serial mode, we have the ability to run through multiple zones and channels within each zone. There are jitter buffers that are programmable in the unit, along with other kinds of audio buffers. The maximum buffers, as far as network goes, is 600 milliseconds, which is a considerable amount of buffering for packets and network issues. It will support unicast and multicast traffic. It just depends on how you configure the unit. There are 4 vocoders. So depending on your network connectivity out to the site, you can select a very low bit vocoder, or if it's local to 100 or a gigabit network, you can run it at the maximum bandwidth to get the best quality audio. It supports a line-to-line patch, allowing you to connect a radio on line 1 and a radio on line 2 and have them intercommunicate with each other. So we'll cover that a little further. Supports IP addressing for both IPv4 and IPv6. And product security. It complies with the California IoT security laws. And we've completed the UL Cybersecurity Assurance Program testing. So it's sold in 3 versions. The base version will do tone, console, and local mode, and it comes with some Kenwood analog radios for serial control, and supports both MDC and FleetSync MSK signaling. The enhanced version in North America takes the base unit and then adds serial control for a number of manufacturers' models of radios, and we'll have a list of those here in a minute. And then the last one is an export version. Due to licensing, we cannot support Moto Turbo outside of North America. So it's the export version is everything minus Moto Turbo. If you have a 224 in the field, you have the ability to add serial control. If it was a base unit, been out there for a while, you can then add the enhanced serial control option for both in North American and export versions. The only thing to remember is whenever you're placing an order, you want to do that, we need the electronic serial number, which can be found on the web page, and it typically starts with 224. So that kind of information needs to be included in your purchase order if you ever want to add serial control to your existing IP-224. Here's just a real short list of the improvements that have been made to IP-224s. These are only the last couple of years worth of improvements. Just to give you an idea, we've in 2.7, which was released earlier this year, we added the Kenwood NX and TK 5930s or 5X30 series. We've improved on the VM, the F. Johnson VM 600, 700, 800, or 900, I believe. They changed the serial protocol for the VMs, so now it supports both the new and the old, depending on the radio firmware. 2.6 added IPv6 addressing. So best thing to do is review the various release notes if you're looking for any kind of odd little fixes, but these are typically just the feature adds alone to our product on the IP-224. The IP-224, most of you probably have seen it. There'll be others on here. This will be the first time they've ever seen it. You've got a menu, soft key button. It gets us into the menu programming. Our display. The up arrow when you're going up and down through the menus. There's a Radio 1 and Radio 2 port. These are designed for test points. One of the old complaints about the old IP-223 is the test points were too close to get any test leads into. We made individual RJ12s, and there's breakout information in the manual as to which pins are the audios and that stuff. There's a handset jack that you could plug an alignment handset into. And it's a great tool to have out at a site. Allows you to PTT the radio locally without the IP connection, and you can test your audio quality. And you can also hear the incoming audio from the radio, make sure it sounds good, and help you to troubleshoot any problems with possible network issues. There's a USB port. It's currently non-functional. It's for a future feature. The IC soft key button, that allows you to intercom back down. If you have the alignment handset plugged in, you can intercom back down to dispatch positions and have full conversations without keying the radio. TX LED, this means not that I'm transmitting the radio, this means I'm transmitting receive packets to the network. So both the TX LED and the Link LED are network indications. It just allows you from the front of the unit to see if you have network connectivity and are you transmitting packets. And finally, the down arrow just helps you to move through the menu. The IP addresses, levels, there are a number of things that you can configure from the front of the unit. You just can't configure the multicast addresses, and you can't configure modes of operation and that kind of stuff, but you can configure the unit IP address. You can reset passwords, all from the front panel. The rear of the unit, chassis ground, make sure we always have good earth-ground connectivity. Our power, it's supplied with a three-pin screw terminal. You can screw on whichever power supply you're using, whether it's power from the radio, 12-volt battery, any kind of power distribution panel, you just power it up. There's a primary and a secondary Ethernet port. Only one is active at a time. And they are not a switch. You can't connect one to the next daisy chaining units. Accessory port gives us our recorder audio out. And then we have radio, our DB37 for radio 1 and radio 2. When you order a IP-224, this is the deliverables. I need to get a new updated picture. I just happened to notice we no longer deliver a CD. We found out more customers' PCs don't have CD drives, so they're just downloading manuals directly from our website. But typically, you'll get the IP-224, an Ethernet cable, the power connector, 2 DB37 connectors and covers to allow you to make cables as you need, or we also supply a number of pre-made cables. We sell single and dual rack kits, so you can mount them either side by side or individually, depending on your installation needs. You can even just lay it on top of a shelf or a desktop if you're doing that. So let's go into modes of operation. Local mode. So here we have just a couple of mobile radios attached, control station mode. I can do, in local mode, I can do channel change using BCD, a relay closure. I can do serial control. When we're in serial, we also get ANI, we'll get other information, emergency data, and it varies dependent on the radio manufacturer. So you'd have to just contact us and say, hey, I would like to use this kind of radio. What kind of functionality can I expect out of the back end if I'm using serial? The next one is local mode 6-wire E&M. We can give you balanced audio in or out, and an E&M or a relay closure to key up a microwave system or a audio mux. It's just truly a very flexible interface on the 224. Now we get into tone mode. In this case, at a remote site, or even in, we'll have some people who will replace a central electronics rig or rack in their current dispatch, and they'll just put a bank of IP-224s in and put them in tone mode, connect those copper pairs up to their existing D-marks and key up the radio like they've always done. Or if you had any radio that already is tone controlled and you wanted to simplify it, 2-wire or 4-wire tone out to any third-party tone adapter or consulate or any kind of base that has a built-in tone card, you can do that from an IP-224. So typical deployment, here we just got CSOF, the number of positions, network. We've got one IP-224 in tone mode, and we've got one IP-224 in local mode running a couple of control station radios. Now console mode, again, like I said earlier, it's taken a legacy analog console or console system, wiring it in. It's going to decode the tones generated by the system and send that information via IP packets to the endpoint IP-224 and allow it to control the radio. This helps you to, get rid of monthly lease line cost. If all of your radios can be controlled by the end user's network or through other network means, this definitely can be a monthly cost saver by not having lease lines. And the same thing, we can take in console mode 6-wire E&M signaling. So if a console system doesn't have tone generation, the IP-224 also has the ability to take in 6-wire E&M, set up in console mode, and send the same packets. There, the only thing we lose are channel change capabilities. It's on a dedicated channel. So this is a common question. Can I bring in console mode on one line and do local or tone mode on the other line of an IP-224? No, it doesn't support that. And this, you would require two IP-224s back to back or across the network. Basically, what you're trying to do is whether a lower cost DSP-223 will do for you. So 224 has the ability, along with the old 223s, to do cross-patch. Whatever comes in one line can be rebroadcast up the other line or put on the network. And in this case, think of, you know, the upper left-hand corner being UHF, and then VHF, and then a 800 meg, any type of RF net. You could predetermine, hey, if we ever come together in an area, switch to your interop channel, and there could be a base station or a control station radio sitting there, and everybody then is connected. So UHF talks, all of a sudden all of the interop channels on the various other radios will then be talking. We have a lot of that, or even during rebanding, they're going from one mutual aid band to another mutual aid band. You could take an IP-224 and have the legacy RF on one channel and the new RF on a different channel, and allow you to do rebanding until all the radios are on the new, or until everybody has new freaked radios deployed. And there is an app note on our website. Just look for number 7, and that will give you a lot of detail about it. So 224 in serial modes, again, like I said, radio manufacturers vary what we can control out of the back end, but there's a basic list of features that our system will support. Again, it's just not every radio supports the feature set. So today's serial control radios, you know, vary from BK to EF Johnson to Hytera, both the Tetra DMR, ICOM IDAS, a number of Kenwood radios, the Motorola XPR or DM. I can't remember the DM. I'm trying to think what they call it in other parts of the world, but it's basically the export version of Turbo. And then power trunk support and tape. Again, the big thing there is on the Moto Turbo, we do not today have serial control of a Moto Turbo outside of North America. Today we offer a number of cables pre-made for the IP-224 to the various radios. We've done a little bit better job of trying to document what radio controls what on our price list. And it's constantly evolving as new radios come out. Some use existing platforms and just call it a different model. But just wanted to let you know that we do make a lot of pre-existing cables. There are 3 new ones coming out. I don't have it on this slide. There'll be a 6-wire E&M cable that will release later this year. There'll be a new high-density DB15 cable for the I want to say the 3X20s or 3X20s from Kenwood. And then there'll be another one because of EF Johnson changed the way the VM 67900s connect. We have to make a new cable for those models of radios because instead of a single connection, it now breaks out into 2 different connections on their accessory octopus cable that comes out of the back of the radio. 224s, a while back at version 2.3, we now include MDC and FleetSync MSK signaling. Those are the features that are supported. If you have a pre-2.3 version IP-224, all you need to do is update to the latest version and you'll get MDC or FleetSync free of charge. That's all I really have on the IP-224. We'll go into TSM now. TSM is pretty much used to download configurations, save configurations, do firmware updates on almost all of our products. You'll see green and circles and red circles and blue circles. As you can see in the picture, the blue circles are CSOFT or our network recorders. It's usually a device that only is recognized by TSM but can't be configured. Red circles mean that the firmware in the unit is out of date compared to the version of TSM you're using. And typically a green dot is you're good to go, but TSM is only rearward looking. You could have some issues with the version of TSM. It may not necessarily write all the address fields correctly. So it's best to look at the device's firmware release notes and say there will usually be a compatibility in there. So TSM compatibility is 2.4 or 2.5 for the version of firmware you want to use. Just remember that. You may say, well, I can see one thing in a web page, but I don't see the same thing when I'm using TSM. And it's because the TSM you're running is probably an older version that doesn't have a drop down or a programmable field. And here's just a supported version by a TSM version and what version of product it supports. You can see throughout the years or since TSM is released, there's a couple of products that haven't changed since the initial release. And in the case of the 1616 and that, which went end of life at last year, it doesn't really matter too much. But just to give you an idea of, it's very critical that you use the correct version of TSM if you're going to use it to capture or program the configuration of the device. The key is when you save a configuration, I always tell somebody, name it IP-224 or ADHB4 and location or something, and then what version of firmware it is. And that way it helps you to, if you ever had this on a stored location for backup, you didn't try to push that configuration file into a wrong operating version that the device is currently running. That could cause you problems. A lot of times people call up and say, it's acting really weird after I pushed a config in, and then you'll find out they pushed the wrong size config file into a newer unit or pulled one in, and then it doesn't put all of the fields in the right areas, and then we'll have to say, okay, you're going to have to do a factory default, basically blow all the configurations out and then manually re-enter the data. So just keep in mind, it's good to also write down the version of firmware that configuration was saved with. Thanks. So over the years, TSM has had a number of improvements. When it first came out, it only had talk to COM port 1. A while back, we added the ability to selectable NIC ports and with some timers. So just go to the Tools, Options section, and then you'll have the ability to select your Ethernet port that you want to send out your TSM queries on and write to. And then if things are not responding as fast or the network is a little slower, things will get dropped off or not. It will time out and it won't allow any more responses in. So sometimes you might have to increase your detection timeout. We also have the ability to device or query the device. One of the comments early on was TSM was configured to one static multicast address that it did its queries out on. The 224 and I believe the HB4, the latest, the two newest products support programmable TSM ports to respond to. And you can go in and view and query device targets, and you can add additional multicast address and port numbers that you want to query. It will query both. So it's still going to find some legacy products and CSoft and those things, but it will also go out and search the any of the new multicast address and port numbers you add. In this case, we added 225.811.81 and 7010 as a multicast address or a port number. It just allowed, some people would say, well, we set up our network to support your default 225.811.81, but your TSM was on something different. So now you have the ability to set up all of your multicast on the same range. During the initial startup, it sends out a query and says, hey, who's out there? It does a query, and they all respond back, and it will populate. You also have the ability to refresh the list. All you gotta do is press the refresh button. It will go out and find anything new. You can do it via F5 or the view refresh. We have the ability to show the list by device name. In this case, you can see it says IP-224 in the device name. We also have the ability to sort and show by the IP address. So it helps if you want to search by an IP address or a device name. You can filter if you have a lot of product out there and you only want to concern yourself with IP-223s or 224s. You can go in there and you can filter down to a specific product. And typically you pick a target and you'll type in the username and password, and then it will populate, it will download and become a process device, and then you can see all of the configurations. You can save the device, so we just go save. We can save the configuration, save it as, and click the disk icon to save. And then again, like I said, unit device or unit, and then the version of firmware the device is running. After you make a change, if you were to make a change to the configuration and you wanted to push it back out to the device, you would just push the record configuration to device button. And typically it will say the process device and your target device. You point at the target, you type in the username, password, and press record. It will go out and it will push that configuration to the device, and the device will respond back as a success, and it should be running the latest version, or the latest configuration, sorry. Now, one of the things we added here recently for the IP-224 is the ability for it to have a VU meter with inside TSM. So in past years or past installs, we always had to go in, activate the UV meter app, and then you had to manually type in the multicast address and port number, and you could have multiple windows up. Well, in the versions of TSM, you can just click on an IP-224, and it will give you the power measurement for the audio. It will give you peaks. In the case of the green line, you can see we had a peak of about -9 as we were doing a speech test. So it's one of the nice features, and it will auto calibrate based on which vocoder you've selected in your CSoft or in any one of your hardware consoles. So one of the common things is we talked about having multiple TSMs. It's pretty easy to do. You install TSM, you go to the program files, pull out that version of TSM's executable, save it into a much larger folder, rename it, TSM 1.5 or TSM 2.0, whatever you want, install another version. This is typically what we have to do in tech support because we'll get configuration files from all kinds of product, and we need to be able to take that product and to view it. We have to open it up in the correct version of TSM for it to properly display. But from a technician standpoint, you can have multiple copies of TSM on a desktop or in a folder. You just install it, rename it, install another one, rename the executable for each version you want to have.
So again, I want to, on behalf of everyone, Hugh, Greg Janaski, Larry Benedict, and myself, I want to thank you all for showing up this week. And stay safe out there. And any questions that you have regarding our products, feel free to give us a contact call, and we'll be happy to help you out. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for joining us. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.